I've been playing outdoors since I was a kid, standing by the front door at around 2 years old, hollering, side, 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 trying to get my mom to let me go play outside. Now, after 30 plus years working in the outdoor business, I'm dropping insider conversations every week with the brand leaders, guides, marketers, CEOs, and others to make the outdoor industry a trillion-dollar juggernaut that drives product innovation, revenue, and public policy for everything outdoors. I'm Rick Sayes. Welcome to the Outdoor Biz Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 456 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast with your culinary guide to the outdoors, Chef Steve Corso. He's here to put you on a path to amazing meals wherever your adventures take you. Brought to you this week by Alabama Beaches. Did you know that Alabama Beaches has plenty of places to get your paddle on? From small group stand-up paddle adventures to surfing and kayaking. Be sure to visit alabamabeaches.com and search their calendar of events to find the best local happenings and activities as well as a place to stay. Go to alabamabeaches.com and get your Alabama Beaches paddling adventure planned today. Welcome to the show, Chef Corso.
Great to be with you, Rick. I've been a fan for a long time and excited to be chatting with you today.
Thanks. Yeah, I've known about your products for a long time. Haven't really checked them out until I met you recently. And man, that cookbook that you gave me I'm going to try some of them at home. It's impressive. I love it.
Great. I'm so glad you like it. Yeah, they're pocket size. They fit right in your glove box or right in your backpack. Right. So really easy to take outside.
And all the details are right there. It's everything that you need.
Yeah, I do my best to put as much information on that recipe card as possible, from a number of ingredients, time, pack weight, volume, dietary restriction tags, a whole bunch of great information.
Well, you're right up there with Betty Crocker, if that means anything.
That's high praise.
Or I guess there's someone new I should reference, not Betty Crocker, but anyway. So what inspired you to start Outdoor Eats TV, and how did your culinary journey lead you in that path?
Sure. So Outdoor Eats TV is really an evolution of Outdoor Eats, which is the company that I founded and that I run about 5 years ago. And the whole mission for Outdoor Eats is to get folks outside, have them eat well, and to share of the outdoor food experience. So I'm a classically trained chef. I'll share a little bit more about my food history a little bit later, but food has always been a strong component of my life with my family and my friends, and also turning into my outdoor adventures. So started to test a couple recipes on a few of my backpacking trips in the Pacific Northwest, and realized that there was a need in this area for something that was different than just packaged meals and different than just peanut butter and tortillas and trail mix for days on end. So really started with a few recipes, getting me excited about going out on my adventures a little bit more and cooking for my friends in some beautiful spots, and then evolving into a website, a recipe resource. We have a whole line of pocket-sized cookbooks called the Trail Meal series, and we have 8 current editions of the cookbooks in the series, and then eventually evolved to a YouTube channel, Chef Corso, where I get to go travel around the country and do many cooking tutorials in some pretty locations or do some gear reviews. And through that, it really led to having an idea for a TV show. And as I was doing my research, I noticed that we really love the travel shows, and we really love the food shows, and we really love the adventure shows. But there really isn't a chef out there or a show out there that is combining those 3 together. So it's really a convergence of those 3 channels. But at the end of the day, I want you to be able to learn something. So for me, it's about teaching, it's about sharing, it's about walking you through 3 or 4 recipes for each episode, and hopefully inspiring you to go outside. So this is definitely the flyover version of the last 5 years. At the beginning, I didn't know that I wanted to make cookbooks. I didn't know that I wanted to make a TV show. All that I knew is that I wanted to go outside more. I wanted to cook more in pretty places, and I wanted to figure out a way to share the recipes with the outdoor community.
Interesting. So how did you share them initially if there wasn't the books? It was online?
Yeah, it was all online and through Instagram. I went out and tested some recipes with my friends or my trips, and some of the early testing locations were sometimes in my backyard, or going on a trip to Joshua Tree, or I'm from the Pacific Northwest and from Port Angeles, Washington, so right at the base of the Olympic National Park. So I tested some recipes in there and just got a couple dozen, just enough to build a website, and wrote a few articles as well just to get some content out there. And for me, it was, and I've learned this a lot through some other entrepreneurs and other creators out there, is that I knew I didn't need it to be perfect in order to launch it, but I needed to get at least enough to flop it out
Yeah.
there. But
Yeah.
that flopping out process was really, really important. And once I hit live on the website, I remember I was sitting at a coffee shop in Capitol Hill in Seattle, and you're like, okay, here we go. And put it out there. And I learned a lot in about 30 days, 45 days about how people are digesting the information, what else I could do, some branding tweaking, and all kinds of things.
That's why I think you go live, right? You get as much of it done as you can and then don't hold it back, just go. Because in those first 30 days, 60 days, first year, oh my God.
Well, and it's a continual evolution if you're open to
Even after
that
that,
growth.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're open to that growth and open to that evolution. But the first couple months is just a really, really big deal, and I think really, really important. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's important to think it through and at least get some feedback and test it out a little bit. But
Yeah.
the flopping it out was a really big step.
Yeah. Yeah. The scary step too. So share,
Yeah.
share a little bit about your background and how it influenced your passion for outdoor cooking.
Absolutely. So, like I said earlier, food has always been a strong component of my life. I've always cooked with my family. Everyone in my family knows how to cook. Holidays are really fun because we're cooking and sharing together. So it's just always been around for me. And it took me a little bit to really get into the outdoors. My family didn't backpack, or we didn't really camp very often. I think we did a couple car camping trips. We would go on a couple day hikes to the local places in the Olympic National Park when our relatives came. But I didn't go backpacking until probably my senior year in high school.
Wow.
And just like a lot of folks listening out there, is that we often go outside for the first time because of our friends. And I think one, that's an invitation, but two, it's also about equipment. I don't
Right.
know if I want to buy a $500 to $1,000 worth of gear that I don't know if I'm going to use again. So
Right.
he's like, yeah, I got your backpack, I got your sleeping bag and pad. Come on out. We'll figure it out and see if you like it. And I did. It was really beautiful. One of those beautiful hike out on the Ozette Triangle on the Washington coast, and I
Nice.
was hooked. So as far as getting into the outdoors, that was my first introduction, and really started to enjoy the experience a little bit more, going farther, going to different locations. But as far as my culinary history is, I've always been in the food industry. I worked just like a lot of chefs out there, started in my local restaurants and local town as a dishwasher, working at a bakery, working as
Did
a
you do
line
fast
chef.
food? Sorry. To start with?
I
No.
never did fast food. Actually, my
Mhm.
first cooking or food job was in a bakery. I was a stock boy. I got to prep cookies and sandwiches and help the baker with all of the things that she needed, which I loved it. I got free cookies and croissants at the end of my shift.
Nice. That's awesome.
um, yeah, after those first culinary jobs, I did realize that I wanted to go pursue this as a profession. So
Mm.
I decided to do the hospitality business route, do the normal college route first. So I went to Michigan State University for their hospitality business program. I sought out a good hospitality program because that's something that I really wanted. There's a lot of great
Mhm.
schools around the country, but that one really resonated with me. And I like sports, football, and basketball. Wanted the college experience, so really enjoyed that. But also got a really, really great education there and some fantastic connections. And after college, I realized that I did need to go to culinary school. I got into culinary school, the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park out of high school, decided
Mm.
to put that aside. But I found a program at their sister campus in Napa Valley.
Oh,
So
nice.
I did their 1 year long intensive culinary program at the Culinary Institute of America at Greystone, which was in Napa Valley. And I got to spend a year of my life learning how to cook in Napa Valley. Our dormitory was in Sutter Homes Vineyards. It was a very, very delightful year and
Wow.
really impactful because I learned a lot, but it's also another emphasis on food quality, experience, those type of things. I did also go to culinary school in Northern Italy as well. A lot of folks out there, they go on their classic European backpacking trip, go to multiple cities with the rail pass. I did that, but I had my chef coat in my backpack.
Wow.
So
Cool.
I turned it into something educational and something good. So I did a couple culinary schools in Northern Italy, did some culinary travel around Spain and Greece and
Wow.
Germany and a couple other countries. So that was a really great foundation for learning nuts and bolts of how to cook. But the thing about me is that when I was going to culinary school, I love food and I love sharing, and I didn't quite know what I wanted to do with it. But what I did know is I didn't want to open up my own restaurant. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a pretty classic path that people think of. They're watching The Bear out there, they're watching all these great culinary shows or movies, and they think that's the main path for a lot of chefs.
Right.
And for me, it just wasn't really drawn to that. I respect a really good dining experience and respect a lot of chefs out there that have their own restaurant or have multiple restaurants in the city. But for me, I wanted to do something different. I also realized that being a chef is really hard work. It's a lot of time. And I
Imagine.
was always working on
A lot of
weekends
hours,
and
seems like. Yeah, you guys work all day.
a lot of hours, a lot of weekends. And I wanted to see my friends and find a more sustainable path forward. So I was really lucky to get a position outside of Seattle as a research chef. So what that means is that I was testing and developing food products for the grocery store for different brands in a test kitchen. So I was
Interesting.
on a team of food scientists and research
Wow,
chefs,
you had all the
and
stuff right there.
we had all this stuff right there. And speaking of that, I had an ice cream maker next to my desk. So what I was creating was ice cream, salad dressings, alcoholic beverages,
Wow.
different flavored sauces, all kinds of different products. And what we would do is we were basically a contractor and consultant and help General Mills or help Martinelli's or Miller Coors or Dryers make their new flavors, and
Very cool.
then guide them through the process for finalizing that recipe and then scaling it up to a large national launch. So, a really interesting part of our food story here in the United States and frankly the world, we think about enjoying food as going out to eat and having the fancy experience or grabbing a burger on the way home, but a lot of our food comes from the grocery store. So,
Interesting.
thinking about the flavored ranch dressings, all of the bottled sauces, the new trendy crackers, all that stuff is that there's a team of food scientists and research chefs that are working really, really hard to
Hmm.
make those products for us. And oftentimes those projects take 4 months on the short end, but sometimes over a year in order
Wow.
to launch. So that was a really important job for me because I worked there for 6 years. I learned a ton, but I've always had this sort of creative mind about food. And I got to test food Monday through Friday, normal schedule in a test kitchen with an
Right.
ice cream maker next to my desk. I
Right.
eventually taught myself how to make beer for a fruit beer project. And so I got to tinker and test food and products, and it was really fun, and I love that job so much. But it was, again, with my sort of curious mind about food, it really was helpful for me to know that there was something out there besides just being a chef on a line.
So that's a similar path to any product designer or product manager in the outdoor space. You were just doing it for food, right? You do that with these brands, and you have access to the sowers and the material, and then you go over to the factories and all the new things, and you just did the same thing in the kitchen in the grocery stores. That's amazing. That's very cool. It makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense when you know that it's there.
Right,
And
right.
the interesting challenge when you compare it to making a jacket or a boot is that the product is perishable. And there's food science involved and proteins and
Yeah.
acids and things that when you combine them, things maybe don't work out quite as you were
Do
hoping.
you ever blow anything up?
Or no, definitely some products that needed multiple rounds of testing in order
Oh
to
yeah,
to
yeah,
make the final grade. But no, actually, I think I actually did blow something up when I was making beer.
yeah.
I came back from over the weekend, and one of them had not dangerously blown up, but had
Yeah, just
definitely
pop the top.
popped the top and boiled over. So I had some mango hefeweizen that I had to clean up.
Nice. That's crazy. So
Yeah.
you never blew up a cake, and you have these cakes that have to rise, and then that didn't blow up. You must have.
No, that definitely didn't
Okay,
didn't
just the
blow up.
beer.
I think just the beer, but I did that position for 6 years and eventually needed a new challenge. So I shifted over to a couple other different culinary positions in the Seattle area, and one was a head chef for a upscale sandwich and salad cafe. And when I started, we had 4 locations, and I eventually helped grow the brand to 14 locations in 2 cities. So we had sandwich shops in Seattle and San Francisco, and it was my job to make sure the food was safe, make sure the food was tasty, and to train the team on all of that. So that was a ton of work over a few years, but really proud of that position. We made some great sandwiches and menu items, and allowed me to get some management experience, some
I was
supply
just gonna
chain
say that.
experience. And then one of my last positions before starting Outdoor Eats was actually work for Starbucks. You may have
Oh.
heard of it.
Mhm. Yeah, small coffee shop. I've
Yeah,
heard of
yeah,
them.
yeah, small coffee shop. And I worked in their corporate office and on their food team, but I wasn't necessarily working on new cake pops or a new Frappuccino. I was working on their higher end brand called Starbucks Reserve.
Oh,
And they have these high end coffee experiences in select cities around the world. So there's one in Seattle, Chicago, New York, Tokyo, Shanghai, and I think Beijing, plus some other outlets in Europe. So my role there was not necessarily to create new menu items, but was to maintain quality and train the team. So they sent me to New York for 6 weeks to train a new store opening. I trained the whole Tokyo management team when they came to Seattle for all of their training.
hmm.
So it was a really interesting job, very high impact and a lot of work. And the interesting thing was through this whole evolution of some of my culinary history and then evolving into starting Outdoor Eats is that in the last 6 months of working at Starbucks, I was working on the Outdoor Eats website at night.
Nah.
I had a lot of hours to work for Starbucks, but in my dark office at 10 o'clock, I was trying to build a website on
Yeah.
Squarespace and banging my head against the screen because I didn't really know how to do it. But I eventually figured it out. I was getting limited by time. I just didn't have enough time in the day to launch this thing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one day they brought myself and a lot of my colleagues into the office and they laid off 75% of the team.
Wow.
And that was pretty surprising because I was in meetings about new projects and new building operations and all kinds of things. And I'm not mad at them. They made a business choice. But the thing about it is they put us on a severance package and eventually gave me time. So
Did you
that
a favor,
was
right?
they did me an amazing favor, and I would have continued to work for Starbucks for a number of years. It's a
Right.
really great position, but I really was curious about what Outdoor Eats could be, and I just needed basically a month. So after I was laid off, I worked at that coffee shop for a few weeks and a few months and finished the website and launched it. But it's a really interesting door closing, door opening situation. But that
Yeah.
was 5 years ago, and I haven't looked back.
Right on. Good for you. Did you ever run into a guy named Steve Schwartz in Napa?
Not that I can recall.
He's a trained chef as well, and he left the traditional chef world and has started this pop-up, I forget what they call it, but it's basically a pop-up guide house where they go fly fishing all over the world. And he gets these 10 guys, 5 guys to get together. They're going to go to the Bahamas. So they go fly fishing in the Bahamas. They rent this great, beautiful house. These guys go out fish all day, catch all kind of fish, come back. He makes them these gourmet meals every day, lunches and things. It's a great idea. I forget the name of it, but pretty cool. And he was in Napa for a while. I thought you might have run into him.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I bet they're cooking up some great meals with some fresh fish on those trips.
Oh, man. I keep wanting to go. He just invited me on one that I'm not going to be able to make it. So one of these days, though. So, what sets Outdoor Eats TV apart from some of the other cooking shows? We all know, a lot of us know the TV big hitters. I'm sure you're much different than them because it's more outdoor, but it sounds like you have the same cooking chops.
Sure. I think the difference that I want to portray with Outdoor Eats is that it's a combination of a classic Saturday morning food show. So it's a lot like a Bobby Flay or a
Hmm.
Giada De Laurentiis or Ina Garten, where you're learning how to make 3, 4 recipes in an episode. But it's also combined with a travel show and also combined with an adventure show. So it's
Hmm.
really that convergence of those three channels that we really enjoy. And also what I want for it is that it's approachable. So it's not just a hiking and backpacking show. It's celebrating all kinds of outdoor activities from e-biking to day hikes to bike packing, boating, hunting and fishing. And for me, it's I want you guys to be motivated to go outside for one, but then also to cook while you're doing it.
Yeah, eat well. Yeah.
There's a lot of really great food shows out there that I enjoy, and some of them are just chef goes to city, eats thing, and tells you where to go, which
Yep.
I will continue to watch because if I'm going to
Right.
Phoenix, I'd like to know where to eat the burrito.
Want to know where those
Um,
places are? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And there are a couple of chefs that are dipping into the outdoor space, but what I think of their content is they're all incredibly well produced and really visually pleasing, but the content is a little bit show and tell, as I like to
Mm.
call it. So it's sensational, it's big things, it's maybe recipes that you aren't going to recreate or has an
Mhm.
ingredient that you maybe never seen before. So for me, I want you to be able to replicate the recipes, cook them at home, cook them on your trips, cook them with your family, and to not make them too difficult. And for our recipes, they're all 10 ingredients or less. They're ready in 30
Oh,
minutes
wow.
or less. There's no pre prep, there's no dehydrating. And there's also no packaged meals. It's something that I'm very passionate about as a
Yeah.
chef, is to throw away your packaged meals. I'm providing a new path for you to cook up some great meals outdoors, but they're all fast, easy, and tasty. And I can make gourmet food as a chef, but for cooking in the outdoors
Don't need
is
it.
you don't need to be super fancy, and your meals need to come together in a few minutes because you've had a long day on the trail or a long day on the road. It's really important to me that the recipes hit those recipe parameters in order to make it into the cookbooks and onto the website.
Looks amazing. Yeah, I've checked out the book that you gave me, and it's something that you can do at home too. And the beauty of getting rid of the packaging is you also get rid of all the stuff that's in it other than the food, the sodium and all those things. So it's got to be a lot healthier too.
Yeah, health is subjective depending on how you're eating. Just basically though, is cooking your own meals outdoors, your salt and your preservatives will go down drastically,
Yeah.
even if you're not being mindful of that. But those packaged meals for me is they're maybe okay for a meal or two, but if you're going for a longer trip, they really don't provide the best fuel. They sit kind of in a weird way in your belly. And I'd rather have a good time outdoors and not go on a culinary sufferfest and eat
Yeah.
food that I'm excited for and that I think is tasty rather than just shoveling down something out of a bag.
I'm with you 100%. My outdoor cooking changed dramatically when I went to river guide school and became a river guide. And it just opened up a whole bunch of doors where you don't have to eat pasta every night and you can eat healthy and you can grill and cook and all these great things. So yeah, good on you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So how do you come up with new recipes? Where just things you want to try or things you discover?
New recipe ideas come from a lot of different spots. At first, it was trying to match the packaged meal flavors because if people were
Yeah.
purchasing these packaged meals out there, then trying to match that flavor profile would be a good idea. And Rick, do you know the most popular packaged meal flavor out there of all the brands?
A brand or the flavor, the
The,
meal
the, the,
flavor?
the flavor, the
Oh
meal.
man, I don't think I know. It's got to be pasta related.
It is pasta related.
Is it curry?
It's not curry. It is beef stroganoff.
Oh God, really?
So apparently, we all
Wow.
love eating beef stroganoff outside. That just sounds great. But what I think is funny about that
I think I've
is
had that like once or twice.
but I think it's funny is that we very rarely make beef stroganoff inside. So it's not like we're having pasta with red sauce inside and having it outside as well. It's just apparently
Wow.
something that we really enjoy out there. So one of the first recipes was testing a beef stroganoff recipe using pasta, some non-fat dry milk, some seasonings, and beef jerky as our beef source. And I was really curious to see if beef jerky would rehydrate in 30 minutes or less. And shockingly, it does.
Wow.
And really provides some great flavor when you're boiling that jerky in with the pasta water and a couple dried mushrooms and maybe some French's fried onions on there and some other seasonings, you've got something really, really tasty. So that was the initial target for some of the recipe ideas. So that's jambalaya, pasta with red sauce, pad thai, some Mexican rice dishes, and just re-engineered and packed those flavors into trail meals that are easy to pack, mindful of the pack weight and volume, and have some sort of fresh element in there as well, whether that's some acidity or maybe even one small vegetable that doesn't weigh too much, like a snap
Yeah.
pea or a bell pepper. But then also now we have over 300 trail tested recipes. So the ideas come from a lot of other angles too, where I'll be traveling around the country and have a really interesting dish at a restaurant and be like, wow, there's actually some country ham in here and some candied walnuts. Maybe we can make that into a trail meal.
Mm.
Or having shrimp and grits down south.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can have some dried shrimp, some cooked bacon, some cheese snacks, and some grits, quick cooking, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you've got something that's super, super tasty. It's been a really fun evolution of the recipe bank and the ideas and my creativity as a chef. And some other recipe categories we have are trailgate. So yes, I said trailgating. I think we should
Love it.
trailgate like we tailgate.
Love
So
it.
we have a
Yeah.
whole cookbook and whole set of recipes for snacks and hot and cold beverages. And what I suggest for folks, especially for a day hike, is put your camp stove in the back of your rig with some ingredients and a cooler if you need it to go do your day hike. Come on back and have a trailgate snack of some chorizo queso, some kettle corn, some other great snack that you want to share. Cheers your journey. What I've also found with that is often the town is an hour or two down the Forest Service road, a
Right.
very, very bumpy Forest Service road, and all you want is a snack. So
Yeah.
why not have a snack right now? And it's another way to share the experience with your crew. And also what I found with that is that often you'll make some new friends. Oh,
I
that
was
smells
just going to
good.
say you better bring extra because I'm sure you're making friends.
Yeah, that's part of the fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And some other recipes that we have are a series that I call Truck Stop. So speaking of healthy and or non-healthy, but sometimes you only have a truck stop or a dollar store in order to provision for your trip. And so we have recipes that are focused on a bag of chips or a bag of crackers. So that's Dorito enchilada bowl, Cheez-It cheddar grits. Funyun French onion is shockingly delicious.
Huh?
It shouldn't be good, but it is good. And also one that's pretty fun, which is a pork rind corn nut pozole. If you guys are familiar with that
Ooh, that
classic
sounds good.
Mexican
Yeah, I love
Mexican
pozole.
stew. Yeah, so you can do a very, very lightweight, high calorie trail pozole if you like.
Interesting.
So the possibilities are endless. We are continually testing recipes for the website and kind of seeing what feedback we get, whether that's more dietary restriction options, whether that's more Indian flavors or no cook, no burner recipe options as well. But it's part of the fun of outdoor eats and finding some new flavors to cook outdoors.
Yeah, I looked, like I said, I looked at that recipe book, and it's just never ending of all the options you have. It looks super creative. Back to the beef jerky. How long does it take to dehydrate beef jerky or rehydrate beef jerky? Sorry.
Yeah, it's a good question. It really depends on the thickness of your slice. So there is
Okay.
some beef jerky out there that is very, very thin,
Yeah.
or some carne seca you can find down in the Southwest that rehydrates very quickly. But it really takes 15 to 20 minutes, depending on your burner, depending on some other conditions. But
Yeah.
it softens up really, really nicely and gives you another protein option besides just packaged tuna and summer sausage or packaged chicken.
Right.
It's been a really fun ingredient to test, but also thinking about it is there's a lot of jerkies out there that are flavored, whether that's teriyaki, sriracha, ranch. So use that to your advantage when you're throwing it in your pot and give you a jump start on flavoring up your ramen or your instant mashed potatoes.
We have a place here in town that has been making beef jerky for I forget how many years, called Mahogany Meats. And I think I forget how many generations it's been, but they have all kinds of unbelievable beef jerky. So I may drop off that cookbook there. They might want to sell that cookbook in there. You might have a new dealer on your hands.
That would be a nice thing. And if you're listening out there, you're a hunter and you
Right.
make your own jerky out of whatever that you're getting. It's a great opportunity to use it in some dishes.
I'll bet. Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah, yeah. Can't wait to try that out. What are some of the biggest challenges you face cooking in the outdoors, other than weather? We've all had weather.
Weather is a challenge, but I think that the main thing that I continually work towards and what people maybe think is not going to work for elevated meals outdoors or cooking with real ingredients is pack weight and pack volume, as
Yeah.
well as perishability. So perishability and keeping food safe is definitely an important thing to think about on the trail. I never suggest that you take raw chicken or raw steak. You can do the freezer situation, freeze it in a block for night one or day one. But other than that, it's really important to stick to solid options that are going to keep your food safe. But the thing about it is we think that all of these ingredients are going to be so heavy. And a lot of our recipes are in the 2.5 to 8 ounces per serving,
Oh, wow.
which is really, really moderate. And we also think that snap peas or bell peppers or cheeses are just going to continue to weigh down our pack. And the thing about it is they're really not that heavy. I know. I also don't suggest that you take a 5 pound sack of potatoes unless you
Right.
want to do a rucking challenge up your next peak for sure. But the recipes are continually focused on being mindful of that pack weight and that pack volume. And what I often suggest for folks that are trying them for the first time, if they are used to taking packaged meals or just oatmeal, is that share the load as far as the weight and the ingredients. I don't suggest that you yourself, the camp chef, take all 20
Right.
pounds of food for 4 people.
Right.
But share the load and get one camp stove that can cook for everybody. And that way you're all dissipating the weight and sharing the load for the whole meal plan. But for example, I went on a great hike on the West Coast Trail on the coast of Vancouver, Washington, or excuse
Beautiful.
me, Vancouver, Canada,
Canada.
last summer with two buddies. And we did 6 nights, 5 days. And we each had about 15 pounds of food, 17 pounds of food, plus some snacks. And initially that sounds like a lot, but when you are metering it out over multiple days, that really does hit within the 2 to 4 pounds of food per day, depending on your trip. And we ate really well. We ate Creole pasta, breakfast tacos, trail sushi. Quick note on trail sushi and not talking about raw stuff is you can do a quick hack with just a pot of sushi rice, some seaweed wraps, packaged tuna, a couple of mayo packets, and some
Oh, wow,
sriracha.
yeah. Sounds
Throw
great.
some sesame seeds, some wasabi peas on top, and you've got a quick hack for trail sushi. Really, really fun. Really, really
Perfect.
nice.
Packaged tuna or
Uh,
packaged salmon, either one. Yeah.
Absolutely, smoked salmon would be great in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things that folks notice when they're getting introduced to outdoor eats, because this is a new path. This isn't full dehydrating. This isn't carb camping with a Dutch
Right.
oven and a campfire. There's a middle ground here. But from what I am testing and the recipe testers and the folks that have already taken recipes out, is that if there is a little bit more weight, it's not going to be too much, but the value of that pound, 2 pounds
Yeah.
is so important and so huge in order for you to get excited for your meals and to have better fuel for your adventures. We all have choices about what we put in our pack from all the equipment and all the food. But for me, food matters. And that little bit of extra weight is something that's pretty important to me in order to have a good time outside.
I agree. I haven't been taking packaged food for many, many years. It's just so many things wrong with it. It's okay, but it's not that nutritional, and it's full of preservatives. So good on you.
Yeah,
Wish
well,
I'd
and
have known about
I
this like 10 years ago.
I'm here for you now. And
That's it.
one thought that I had on one solo adventure, I've done a couple solo trips through the years. I was in the North Cascades National Park and did my own exploration through the Chelan area and the Sahali area. Beautiful fall. I have a video on YouTube about the whole journey and
Cool.
documenting the journey and also the recipes that I made. But on day 4, I was walking down a Forest Service road for it seemed like about 3 or 4 miles. And we've all been there. We do it because we have to get to the next spot. But I had this realization that a boring meal plan is like walking on a Forest Service road for multiple
That's
miles.
right.
It's fine. You're gonna do it. It's
You're
still
gonna get there,
outside.
right? Yeah, yeah,
Yep, there's a river there. It sounds good. The
yeah.
the butterflies are flying by. The raven is coming in to say hello, but it's boring and it's not that fun. But if you have a meal plan that you're excited for,
Yeah.
both for just flavor, but also texture, nutrients, color, it's like going to the peak and sleeping by the Alpine Lake and jumping in it the next morning and then
Mhm.
going to see the sunset. It's all of the things all
Mhm.
together. And to me, I would much rather have a interesting trip and interesting meal plan than a fine, boring one hiking on a Forest Service road.
Yeah, it kicks it up a notch too. Yeah. And I should give shout out to all my buddies too, because for the last 10 or 15 years, probably we've been eating pretty well. It was before then when I was in high school that we ate the packaged stuff. So don't
Sure.
email me, you guys. I get it. I get it. So how do you adapt some of the recipes to an outdoor environment? It's mainly looking for things that are dried foods, things like that you can rehydrate. And yeah, what other things do you look at?
Yeah, for all the recipe creation, I put my research chef hat back on. Again,
Right.
being pretty curious of like, okay, great, we have stroganoff or we have a jambalaya. What are the core components of this? And what are the ingredients that we can use in order to create and match that flavor? For the trail testing that I've done through the years, is I have found that I always start in the pantry. And there are a lot of great pantry ingredients that are great building blocks for a great meal. So that instant rices, tuna packets, instant mashed potatoes, instant stuffing mix, gravy mixes, those kind of things, pastas, couscous. A lot of you guys out there who are listening are already taking those things. It's just a matter
Right.
of how to add a few fresh ingredients or add a few different spices or a cooking method or step in order to make them really, really amazing. But that's where I usually start. Then adding some protein or some freshness, but some ingredients that I've found that have really helped for kind of the perishability, pack weight, and volume is coconut milk powder.
Hmm.
It actually comes in a powder, so it's really nice for breakfast dishes, for your oatmeal or
In
any sort of
coffee.
your yeah, putting your coffee too if you like that. But also really nice addition to Thai dishes and Indian dishes for dinner.
Mhm, mhm.
So that's been really nice. Soy sauce comes in a powder if you are mindful of liquid. So
Hmm.
that rehydrates really well. There's all of the freeze dried or dehydrated legumes, whether that's chickpeas, lentils, pinto, or black beans. A big asterisk here is that don't take dried beans or dried chickpeas on the trail, or frankly, mostly car camping. there's a big difference between dried and freeze dried and or dehydrated. A,
Right.
a dried bean, just the bag you get in the grocery store, needs to be rehydrated for at least an hour or overnight and then cooked for an hour. Don't take those, but those can give you some really great protein and help build your dishes.
Hey, another great activity while you're on your Alabama beaches adventure is paddling. There are plenty of places to get your paddle on, from small group stand-up paddle adventures to surfing and kayaking. You'll find kayak and stand-up paddle boards, lessons, tours, and rentals, so you can experience one of the best activities to do while you're on your Alabama beaches adventure. Go to alabamabeaches.com and get your Alabama Beaches adventure plan today. Now let's get back to the show. What advice do you have to outdoor folks who want to minimize their environmental impact when they're cooking?
So previously, like I said, is that we all have choices about what we want to pack, or we also have choices about which brands that we want to support or purchase. So I think nowadays there are a lot of brands out there that are putting some effort into some sort of sustainability practice, giving back for the planet. And I think it's important to support those folks. I'm in the camp that we need to do all we can to help preserve our public lands, whether that's protecting the lands themselves or to not trash them when we're out there. There's the larger scale, and then there's the personal scale. But for me, I really like using reusable items for cooking. So whether that's a reusable lighter, refillable butane lighter, rather than just a Bic lighter that you throw it away. That's not a big thing, but it's something that I choose to do. And also minimizing the amount of plastic that I take along, from reusable stuff sacks to reusable Ziplocs, and to pack up my food for my trips. And another thing you can do when you are provisioning is looking for overall quality of your ingredients, supporting organic when you can. You can't do that all the time depending on where you are shopping, but as you're rolling through these smaller towns, stop by a farmer's market, stop by the local bakery or coffee shop and support them. They're often very, very passionate about making cheese and making bread, and hopefully doing it in a slightly better way than just the mass-produced stuff. So those are things that I look to, minimizing my overall trash and footprint, supporting brands that do have some sort of eco stance. And also for me, just cooking my own food and eating my own food does just naturally minimize how much packaging that I am taking along. But at the basics of it too is follow leave no trace practices and pack it out. I think it's really important. I've had a lot of comments on YouTube of, oh, but the banana peel is fine in nature. It's going to biodegrade. You're right. It will biodegrade, but we don't necessarily want 100 bananas biodegrading next to the bison in Yellowstone.
And it's going to take a while, so you don't want the next guy to see it. Yeah,
Absolutely. So always follow leave no trace and pack it out. It's a really, really easy thing to do.
Yeah, that's great advice. And tell us about your recipe bank on the website. You have a recipe bank, you have a recipe club, and pocket-sized cookbooks. Those are great resources.
Yeah, so the main driver for Outdoor Eats is recipes, and that can be a single recipe in our recipe bank. We have over 300 trail-tested recipes on there currently. And what I do for the cookbooks is pull 20 different recipes for each edition and then put them in a printed format. So the recipes are continually rolling, they're getting tested all the time, and I add new recipes as they get finished testing. And the recipe bank is all organized by dietary restriction, meal type, low water, low weight, breakfast, lunch, dinner. So if you have a specific style of trip or a specific dietary challenge, we can definitely help you out there. And I'm very proud that we have options for just about everybody on the website, whether that's flavor or dietary, because I noticed that a lot of folks were sacrificing their dietary ideals or their challenge when they were going outdoors. So maybe you can eat everything, but then maybe your trail friend can't eat gluten or dairy, and they should still be able to have a good meal when they're going outside and not be uncomfortable or not have to sacrifice anything.
That's totally.
But the other interesting thing about Outdoor Eats, and one thing that I think makes us a little bit different, is that all the recipes are tested by you guys out there listening. So we have a whole community of recipe testers around the country and around the world that sign up on the website. They give me a little bit of information about where they are, their dietary restrictions, how they like to enjoy the outdoors, and then they can go test a recipe on their journey. And it's a really important part of this process because I can go out and test recipes today. After we're done talking, I can go test 6 on a hike if I wanted to. but it's really not that fun, and it's not sharing of the experience. And I like bringing people into the creative process as a research chef on how these recipes really get created. But the feedback has been fantastic as far as maybe we just needed to add a little bit more salt, or to add a little bit more water to fully rehydrate, or maybe the step wasn't very clear, or just to confirm the pack weight and pack volume of something. So we have had recipe testers from all over the world, all over the United States. It's been really fun to see where people test these recipes. Like we've had recipes tested on the north rim of the Grand Canyon,
Wow.
or a Trail Cioppino recipe was tested in the UK on a sailboat trip.
Ooh.
And I just love that I can be a part of people's adventures and a part of people's trips. And it's so fun to see where people are cooking, how they're doing it. And some of the photos that we get back are fantastic. And also, as you guys are looking at the website, just about all the photos on the website are from the recipe community. So I don't want all these recipe photos to be crafted and curated inside. This is outside. Take a picture on a log or a rock. And sometimes nature provides a really great complement or backdrop, but you're outside, you're doing it.
And I love the name Outdoor Eats, because I think a lot of cooking books and things are named backpacking cooking or wilderness cooking or something, but we all want to eat better whenever we're outside, whether it's on a wilderness trip or just out for a day hike and you want to have a good lunch.
Absolutely. And the recipes did start for the hiker and backpacker in mind, because that's where I saw the most need. But over the last 5 years, I've noticed again that these recipes can support a lot of styles of outdoor adventures. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be epic. Yeah, I just finished a whole 6 week in a van, doing a whole van life road trip themes of recipes and one skillet items and those type of recipes. But it's been a nice evolution of the recipes and the community. And the other thing that I noticed early on in the recipe testing process is that it's really hard to translate a car camping recipe to a backpacker meal.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to translate a backpacker meal, hiking meal, into a car camping meal. So say you're making a chicken chili verde recipe with packaged chicken and instant rice, really easy to translate that up with some raw chicken thighs and maybe a few more veggies and avocados in order to make it for that car camping experience. So it's all, again, 10 ingredients or less, 30 minutes or less, really easy to modify and translate to different styles of adventures. But again, that's the fun part, is like I get to be part of people's trips, and they are able to share some great photos, and I'm able to get some great feedback, so that I know, and that we all know, that the recipes work and they're going to help complement your journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, good on you. So you've done a lot with food. Have you done anything with cooking tools or utensils or anything? Have you created any of those things?
Yes. So the things that I take on just about every trip is a foldable camp knife, but I actually did create one and partner with a couple of brands out there that are foldable, and the blade is anywhere from 4 to 5 inches. There are a lot of really great artisan and local knife companies out there, but a lot of their knives are pretty stubby, like 2 to 4 inches. And for me, I don't necessarily want to have to saw through my summer sausage or my salami. I just want to cut it. So that's been really nice. And I do really enjoy having my blades foldable. I just love that insurance, knowing that they're safe, they're packed away, they're not going to poke anything. So that's been something that we have those on the website currently. A few other things that I always bring along is a flexible, packable cutting board. They have varying sizes, but the small ones can slide right next to your bladder in your backpack, so it doesn't take up too much space. But that can be really good for chopping up some veggies or your meats and cheeses for your lunches. So that's been really good. Mention again the refillable butane lighter. It's been really nice from an eco perspective, but then also it lights just about every time. It's hot, and I've been in that situation where my hands are wet and cold and I'm tired, and all I want to do is light my darn burner, and I just can't light the Bic. It just doesn't work. So I'm never going to have that experience again. So the refillable butane has been really helpful for me, and also lights up the burner really, really darn quickly. This is one that I don't necessarily need to pack along, but I look for as I'm hiking is when I'm eating noodles on the trail, I look for campy chopsticks.
Yeah.
So you can whittle up a couple chopsticks, just like you're whittling up a hot dog stick or a s'more stick, just whittle up another one, and you can have your own just rustic, campy chopstick experience when you are eating your noodles.
There
So
you
it's
go.
been a fun experience. It's really fun to do with kids too.
Yeah, kids love chopsticks. So do you have a favorite recipe?
There are a lot of really
So
great
many, right?
recipes, and I'm very guided by my belly, both inside and outside. So for my meal plan, it's okay. What flavors do I want for this trip? Whether that's Indian or Italian, Mexican, those kind of things. I speaking of chopsticks, I just like eating noodles outside.
Mm.
Whether that's pad thai or that's elevated ramen, something that's brothy and warm on a cool evening at Alpine, that really hits the spot. And I don't know why noodles taste good outside,
Yeah,
but
they do.
they
Yeah.
they they just hit for me. Another great noodle dish is carbonara pasta too.
Mhm.
Can use some powdered eggs and pre-cooked bacon, some Parmesan cheese. That's another great noodle dish you can take along as well. So for me, it's there's definitely some noodles in the meal plan depending on the flavor. But back to the grits is I'll take grits on just about every meal plan too, especially if it's a longer one, because I know that I'm going to be satisfied, I'm going to be full, and it's only a quarter to half a cup and just a few ounces.
So you eat grits over oatmeal for breakfast?
Yes, I'm very much more a
That's
savory breakfast over sweet breakfast. And those maple brown sugar Quaker packets, those kind of things, they're dead to me. I just
yeah.
I just can't eat them anymore. I've done it
I'm
too many
about that.
times and they're too sweet, and
Yeah.
I'd rather have something savory.
I'll try.
Or grits are really grits are really good, or pack ingredients for a trail breakfast taco. Whether
Yeah.
that's some TVP, some seasoning, textured
Mhm.
vegetable protein, and some powdered eggs, tortilla, you're doing pretty
Great
good.
idea. That's pretty simple. Yeah, I'll have to whip that up. Yeah, I love that. So it sounds like you collaborated with a lot of folks on recipes. How do you collaborate with brands and other folks that create the stuff you cook with, or do you collaborate with them?
Yeah, I've collaborated with a few brands. We have some sponsors for the TV show and for the YouTube channel as well. I've done some workshops and things for Arc'teryx and North Face. Merrill was a sponsor for the first season of the show. I've collaborated on some content as well with a few YouTube creators.
Mhm.
And each project is just a little bit different based on the brand. I love learning about their goals and their missions and how we can help complement. And with the collective mission of getting folks outside, having them
Mhm.
recreate responsibly, and then having them have a great meal while they're doing it. But I think one great collaboration was with one of the YouTube creators that I reached out to and never met him before. But I'm like, hey man, let's go on a trip together and let's film it, see what happens. And so I planned a trip to Zion. I've never been there before. And so he flew into Vegas. I met him in the dumpy hotel parking lot off the strip. I actually made him breakfast tacos and coffee to start. We
Nice.
drove up to Zion, which is only a few hours from Vegas, and did a 2 or 3 night backpacking tour ending at Angel's Landing, and took the shuttle back, and we became fast friends. Really fun experience, and we just shared the journey together, both never really being in Zion before.
Mm.
And I love those kind of things, because if you don't ask the question, the answer is no. You throw out some feelers, sometimes you get dead air, but sometimes you get things back, and they can provide a really good partnership or a really good experience.
Yeah, generally you get a good experience out of it, at the very least. I'd say 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. So what are the future goals and plans for Outdoor Eats? Any upcoming projects you can share with us?
Can you hear the dog?
No, I can't.
Okay, good. I'm house sitting for my friend, and he has a really great dog. Dogs bark.
Yeah, that's okay. Dogs barking in the background are okay.
Good.
So what are the future goals and plans for Outdoor Eats TV? Sounds like you got a lot of things cooking. Any exciting developments you can share that you haven't shared yet?
Things are definitely cooking. There's a lot of easy food
I
puns
didn't
for
mean to
this,
say that. So
and it's okay. People are hungry for this. Oh yeah, let's go.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So the show is airing nationally right now, season two. So we have 4 episodes for season two, airing nationally on Valley Sports and also Outside TV. So we were able to explore some really fun locations. We went to St. Petersburg, Florida, Corpus Christi, Texas, Mount Diablo outside of Oakland, California, and the Smoky Mountains. So 4 really different journeys and regions, and some really fun activities in each spot. And also cooked up some fantastic meals with some great new friends and great new guides down there.
Mhm.
So that is out now. we are rolling into production for Outdoor Eats season 3,
Uh-huh.
and very, very exciting because we are filming in August in Switzerland in Liechtenstein.
Oh, cool.
So we are going over for a week, and I get to go hiking in the Alps and eat cheese and tell you
That's
all
gonna be
about it.
awesome. Isn't Liechtenstein? I've seen Liechtenstein from far away. Isn't that one of the smallest countries in the world?
It's one of the smallest countries in the world. So one of the things I'm going to be doing is hiking across a trail that can take you all across Liechtenstein. And wouldn't you know, it takes 3 days to hike across Liechtenstein.
Oh,
It's not that big.
yeah.
But yeah, so we are rolling into production for the next season, which is really exciting, and it means that I get to experience some more locations and tell some more stories. I will continue to grow the recipe bank and the Trail Meals cookbook line. I've been putting out at least one cookbook every year for the last 5 years. We'll
Wow.
probably do another cookbook next year, and just again continue to share different content and different ways to help support the outdoor community when they're cooking outside. The thing that I've been really toying around with over the last few weeks is some sort of guided trip experience. So
Mm.
whether that is national or international, I would love to take a group of backpackers or hikers with a seasoned guide, and we do a culinary backpacking trip. So we
Great
go
idea.
to Zion, we go to Olympic National Park, and we see the rocks. We learn about the history of the area and the flora and the fauna. But then at every mealtime is a mini workshop.
Oh,
So I would love to trial that next year. So I'm talking with some companies and brands to try to make that happen. But then
mhm.
also thinking about international travel is maybe going on a bike packing trip in Vietnam and
Yeah,
learning about the food culture there. We are cycling through the local markets. We cook together. We learn. So I think that would be a nice evolution for Outdoor Eats in order to provide some more fun experiences for folks and to continue to educate about outdoor cooking.
that'd be very cool. Yeah, you could do so many things with that. Yeah, that'd be exciting. What advice do you have for someone that wants to, it's new to outdoor cooking? They cook at home maybe, but they don't do it outside. You got any advice for them to start slow before they immerse themselves
Yeah,
fully? Because they will eventually.
yeah, absolutely. The tip that I can share is that to start slow, doesn't have to be fancy. You can just start with a few ingredients and go from there. For both inside and outside cooking, is I always suggest to start with soups or stews because they're wet. They have moisture. I don't know how you can really burn a soup unless you just completely forget about it all day. And so they're very, very forgiving. There's also a lot of great flavors that you can make, whether that's classic American chicken noodle or tortilla soup from Mexico or something else from another region. But it's a really great place to start. And if you're ever concerned about what ingredients to add, soups are very forgiving. You can always add more seasoning, always add more salt, I always add more lemon juice or something like that in order to really make the dish great. So that is a really great place to start. I also love making soups outside, especially on those kind of cooler evenings or
Yeah.
early fall hikes,
Well,
is
yeah,
having a
yeah.
nice bowl of beef stew or chicken and dumplings or
Yeah.
something like that really hits the spot.
Warms you up. Yeah. I always ask this gear question. What is your favorite piece of gear that you always have with you on your adventures? Doesn't have to be cooking, but you probably should be cooking since we're talking about cooking.
Yeah,
Or
there's two
maybe
that came to mind.
ingredient.
Ooh, so how about this? We'll do gear and then ingredient.
Cool.
Okay,
Perfect.
so I the two came to mind is a some sort of knife,
Yeah.
foldable camp knife for me because I'm definitely looking to cook when I'm going outside, and then I have not necessarily my luxury item, but I have my camp mug that I really like. I think we all have a version of this or
Yep.
something that you just need to bring along. But one of the great parts about every trip for me is having morning coffee as the sun wakes up the valley,
Yep.
and it's quiet, not everything's moving yet, you haven't packed up yet, and just having those few moments after you rolled out your tent, nice warm cup of coffee as you're watching nature wake up is the best.
I
And I
agree.
love having my camp mug for that.
Agree 100%.
um,
Yeah. There's nothing like being the first one up and making the coffee and watching the world unfold. Yep.
that is absolutely the best. But then for ingredients, it, again, it really is dictated by my belly and what ingredients are and what recipes that we're taking along, but spice mixes. So really good quality spice mixes. So if you have a spot locally or if you want to buy some online, is find spices that are fresh and specifically spice mixes that have little to no salt in them. And sometimes salt or paprika are the first two ingredients, and those kind of are just bulking up agents. They aren't actually the flavor that you want. So seek that out, check the ingredient listing, but really great Indian mixes, Italian seasoning, chili powders, other ethnic flavors are ingredients that I take on every trip. And spice mixes are the best way to provide tasty flavor with no weight and no volume.
Yep, you could put spice mixes on a leather shoe and make it taste fantastic, probably.
Probably.
And there's some great options in the grocery stores. I guess you do have to watch out for the salt, but there's some amazing little packets of this and those little shaker jars of that from various parts around the world. So that's a great advice.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about going to the grocery store nowadays is there's a lot of ingredients that are calling you to throw them in your backpack or throw them in your cooler with not a whole lot of prep and not a whole lot of weight.
Yep, exactly. Yep. How about a favorite book? Do you read a lot?
I do read. So another thing about my story is that I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I lived in Seattle for 12 years, but I moved away three and a half years ago in the middle of the pandemic. I started or run an outdoor food company, so thought I could do it on the road. And so on the last 3.5 years, I've been on I call the vagabond tour. So the tour and the path develops for itself. I don't have a full schedule all the time, but it allows me to travel around and be nimble and being able to go up to a teaching workshop up in Wyoming and then hang out in the Tetons, or go to a conference in Asheville, North Carolina, and enjoy that region for a few months. So been really, really fun. But with that, I have a lot of time on the road. So I love audiobooks. But actually, I wrote this down because I knew you were going to ask it. But there's, 4 or 5 books that I've really enjoyed over the last year. One, Audible, or you can get a library card and get them for way less money. Yeah. But a couple of books that I've really liked is Why You Eat What You Eat by Rachel Herz. It's really interesting thoughts on how we enjoy our food from shapes and colors and conditioning. Really, really fun insight there. Any of the Michael Pollan books, he does great food books, but specifically the Botany of Desire, I really enjoyed. There is a theme here of food. I don't always read just food books, but there's there's another fascinating one called The Food Explorer by Daniel Stone. And it's this amazing story of this eccentric millionaire, and like a couple centuries ago with a botanist. It'd be like Jeff Bezos and Bob Ross went on a trip together or something, but they went around the world searching for fruit and vegetables in order to bring back to the United States to cultivate. Wow. So like the lemon that we enjoy today, some of the peaches, some of the grapes, some of those varieties of things that we know and love, these guys found them in Southeast Asia or some part of the world and brought them back and figured out how to cultivate them. Super interesting food history. So that one's really good. The one I just finished was The Material World by Conway. And this is not food related, but just a really interesting deep dive into oil and lithium and sand that goes into making glass. Yeah. So some building blocks for our modern life. That was really interesting. Yeah. And on a lighter note, I just finished the Matthew McConaughey memoir called Green Lights. Mm-hmm. And if you like audiobooks, he delivers a great audiobook.
It was a good one, huh?
That was a very, very fun read.
Okay.
So
I'll have to pick that
up. You got some food things, some material things, and just some fun.
I'm the same. I'm always looking for regular books and Audible and audiobooks because I just, as long flights or long drives, you just have to pass the time with something.
Absolutely.
Sports and music doesn't always cut it. So how can listeners follow up with you? Obviously, Outdoor Eats. What else? Is that
Check out outdooreats.com. That's where all the recipes live, helpful articles, merchandise, the campy knife, all those kind of things. We also do have full trip meal plans if you don't want to meal plan for your trip, anywhere from 1 night to 6 nights. Also have ebooks available if you don't want a physical copy. And check us out on the social media channels. So Outdoor Eats 365 on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. The YouTube channel is Chef Corso, Corso, and I usually do a video a week. of ranging topics from a single recipe to some ingredients to a trip report or checking out some new stoves. I like to vary up the content there. And for the TV show, check out your local listings for Valley Sports or Outside TV. Those episodes are currently airing and will continue to air through the next year or two. If you don't have those, just follow the YouTube channel. Those episodes will eventually land on the YouTube channel as well.
Cool. We'll link to all that stuff in the show notes. Well, you got to get down here to the Sierra sometime. Have you been to the Sierra?
I have been in the Sierras, but not for a long time. Yeah, I'd love to get back there again.
Come on down. We'll go. I can get up into the backcountry. I have a tough time getting back down, but I can get up. The knees get hammered on the way down.
Yeah, I think we could find a trip that would be fun for both of us.
Yeah, there's a bunch of places too where you can just go car camping. There's amazing places to go car camping. So we'll figure something out. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Rick.
Hey, before we wrap, I've got a special message for you. I know some of you have a podcast rolling around your brain or already have a podcast you'd like to polish up a bit. I'm excited to announce that I'm partnering with Tracy DeFord's Stephanie Euler and the Produce Your Podcast team to get it out of your head and into your followers' ears. Tracy and her team have helped me grow and monetize my show, and podcasters trust them because they deliver. Go to ricksays.com/PYP to get all the details. Let's get your show created, produced, and on the air today. Go to ricksays.com/PYP and get all the deets, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Outdoor Biz Podcast. Be sure to visit our website, theoutdoorbizpodcast.com, where you'll find show notes with links to everything we talked about and more. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or spread the word and tell a friend. That would really help us out too. Be sure to tune in every week. And thanks again for listening to the Outdoor Biz Podcast with Rick Says.